everyone. Welcome to Bookends of Recovery. I'm Laura. I want you to know that sobriety and healing are within your reach. I did it, and so can you. Okay, so have you ever heard a word and it just made you cringe? Okay, for some of you, I know that word could be moist. I don't get it. Maybe because I'm older than some of you. For others, it might be like, I know my husband doesn't like when people say things like Riz, for charisma, or ship, when someone's saying, they want to see two people as a couple. I don't know why, but it drives him bananas. But for me, it was hearing the word codependency. I hated that word for such a long time. I think it's because, I don't know, I tried to hide my accent. I don't know why, but I'm from New York, and I think because I just prided myself on being like this, tough New York independent girl, just, I don't know, just something in my head, right? And so hearing codependency, it was just like that went against everything that I pictured myself in. If you listen to that podcast where I described myself as a dwarf from D&D, it's like, how could a dwarf from D&D be codependent? Right? It just doesn't add up. But yeah, that label, right? And like, who wants to be labeled anyway? I mean, even if my counselor would bring it up, I'd be like, nope. It's just like that, that chip on my shoulder it wasn't even a chip. It was like a boulder. It's like, no, we're not having that. It's just so bad. But that's just one of those words that you hear, bandied about in the addiction community. And I just could not accept that, yeah, I was codependent in a lot of my relationships, like if I was honest with myself and looked back at a bunch of them, going back over the years, wow, I fit the bill. But it's also because I didn't know what the word actually meant. I think I didn't realize that it's a coping mechanism as well. I looked at it like it was a way to blame me for somebody else's actions, and that's just not what it is, It's, like I said, it's a coping mechanism. So let's look at some of the signs first. And if you're tuning in because you're like, oh, she talks about, addiction and I'm an addict. If you're an addict, you can still be codependent. I mean, I'm talking as someone in recovery, and I was codependent, so it works both sides. But so listen to the signs and see if you can relate to any of them. Do you have trouble expressing your feelings and emotions? I definitely did. I've given this example before because it's an easy one to reach. One day I was in a lot of pain, and I was crying because I was in pain. And I was told to stop crying because it's not going to help. And so that's the kind of, there was no empathy. There was no, there was no mothering. There was nothing like that. It was just shut your feelings down. That's not going to help you. And so not being taught how to express my emotions, that's what you learn, right? So sometimes we just don't have those tools. What about being liked by everyone? Are you someone who wants to be liked by everyone? You would not know it, but there was a time with, that I wanted to be, I wanted that approval. And if I didn't get it, I was like, well, damn, why don't they like me? And I wouldn't show it. I always had that tough exterior. People who knew me would call me a porcupine because I was like the prickly on the outside, but like all gooey on the inside. But yeah, I'd be like, not obsessed, but definitely it would cross my mind a lot. Like, how come Joanne doesn't like me? Well, what's up with that? What can I do to make her like me? What about unable to set clear boundaries? I know a lot of us struggle with that. Just the inability to say no is a huge one, but not just that. It's like, oh, hi, person standing online, at Walmart. Let me share my whole life with you. Or did you know yesterday my internet went down and then I couldn't work, and then after that, now I can't pay my bills. Yeah, can you believe that? Yeah, now I'm struggling. I can't pay my, who can, this person doesn't know you. They don't need to know that. Or then you start sharing about, yeah, so my husband came home drunk the other night. Or, you just start sharing all these wacky things. It's just because you don't have clear boundaries. What about ignoring or denying problems? You're putting your head in the sand about things, or you're justifying things, whether that's on the recovery side, the healing side, the partner side, whatever it is, you're putting your head in the sand. What about feeling responsible for other people's feelings? This is so me back in the day. It was like, when you see the little bird, with the broken wing, or, I don't know, the bunny or whatever, and you're like, oh no, I'm going to take care of you. You're sad. Let me make you happy. Did I do that? Did I make you feel, sad? Let me change that for you. It was like holding that mirror up, if you're sad, I'm sad. If you're happy, I'm happy. What about being withdrawn and depressed? Or having low self-esteem and self-worth? There was a time where, because I felt like I was responsible for other people's feelings, it was such a drain on my self-worth and my self-esteem. And plus all the things that I went through when I was young. It just hit me to where my self-esteem was just on the floor. Are you suppressing thoughts and feelings because you're fearful or you feel guilty and you don't want to share them? Because you're afraid you might hurt someone else's feelings? Or you feel guilty because you feel that way, and so therefore you're just not saying it? Do you have a need to control? I know when I was going through it, I had a huge need for control. It went from everywhere from people to situations, because not just because of the chaos that was in my head, because I really struggled with calming like that chaos in my brain. And so I just did it externally because that was just the easiest way for me to manage it. But also because I felt like if I can control things at work, let me do this project because otherwise it's not going to go right. Or let me do this at home because nobody else knows how to do it. It's just going to go wrong. Like there was just that, feeling. And I just couldn't let go. I had to control it all. And then one time I went out of town, had my kids with me, and something happened while we were out of town, and it delayed me coming back to work. And there was this thing that also happened while I was out of town at work. And this is back before cell phones and FaceTime and all that. I know, I told you I'm old. And so I called my boss and I said, hey, this is what's going on. And he was like, oh, you're not going to believe what happened at this property that, blah, blah, blah. And I said, oh, no. And I was like, oh, my God, what's going to happen? I'm not there. And life moved on. Like, everything worked out fine. I didn't have to be there. The world didn't fall apart. And it's like, oh, so life does go on without me. I can't control everything, but still things were fine. And that's what happens. Huh. I don't have to control everything, do I? It's the art of letting go. But, and like I said, we try to fix others when sometimes they don't want to be fixed. And guess what? What happens? We're busy trying to fix them, and they don't want to be fixed. And we get frustrated. So we're just causing ourselves more frustration and more anger. So if we just take a few steps back and allow them to either fail or give them an opportunity to succeed. Because what if we take a step back and allow them to fail for a second and give them an opportunity to pick themselves up off the floor and they succeed? Well, if we had stepped in and took control, we would have robbed them an opportunity to succeed. So sometimes it's better to step back and let them do it on their own so they get the opportunity to feel pride and success. It's pretty cool. Yeah. Because I know that in the beginning of my husband's recovery, for like that first month, I was, because I think I've shared, no, I did on my blog, but I was very hypervigilant. And so I would do those, I was also passive aggressive. So I would do the, hey, it's, did you know what time it was? It's like, oh wow, I gotta start making dinner because it's, 5:45. So that was my way of saying, you better get your ass out the door because your meeting starts pretty soon, that kind of stuff. And so then I learned, okay, well, if he doesn't get to a meeting, he knows that, because back then we were doing boundaries, he knows what my consequences are. Okay, so then let it go. And eventually, I did let it go. And he learned to do all these things on his own anyway. And so he was better for it. All right, I'm rambling. My apologies. Another sign is, are you setting aside your own interest to do what others want? So maybe you want to go look at holiday lights. And somebody else is like, no, I want to stay home because, I don't know. I can't think of any shows. The Masked Singer is on. I don't even like that show. But whatever. So we're going to watch that tonight. Well, that's not really what they want to do. They just want to stay home and act out or do whatever. So they're engaging in their activity and you don't get to do yours. And why is that? Is it because you're being too loyal? That's another quality. Which I kind of think, that word loyal, we use it so much. Reminds me of watching Housewives. What about poor communication skills? That's another one. I just talked about being passive aggressive. That I told you I'm just the queen, or I was the queen of passive aggressiveness, or just not knowing how to express myself appropriately or properly. Doing, not just being passive aggressive, but also putting up my walls. So if I had my feelings hurt, I either got disproportionately angry or I just wouldn't say anything. I would just shut down. You have to learn how to communicate. You have to learn how to turn towards each other. And then the last one, refusing to seek help because you just feel like the problem isn't bad enough. Now, I can raise my hand real high for that one because I was really great about telling other people, you should go see someone, what about AA or, NA? Here's a flyer. I'll just leave that on the coffee table for you. But like I said, if it's not just for the partner, you can be active in your addiction and still be codependent on your partner because you can become so enmeshed with each other to the point where your boundaries become so blurred, you don't know where you start and someone else begins. And I think sometimes when we're in a relationship with each other, it can just get so unhealthy. I did it not just with my current husband back in the day, but even with, my daughter's father who, when I realized he was an alcoholic, I was making excuses for him. Same thing, for boyfriends before him and my first husband. It was just one excuse after another for bad behaviors. My track record was terrible, and I didn't even, this is embarrassing, but I didn't even notice I had a track record until I did my step work. So, if you can relate to that, don't feel bad. Apparently it's not uncommon. Was talking to people in group and in AA, and this is normal. So, and in Al-Anon. So, yeah. So let's talk a little bit about being able to tell if you're in a codependent relationship. So I'm going to ask you a few questions, and then I want you to, you can have a pen and paper or use your phone or whatever, or you can come back to this later, and just think about it as I'm asking you. So, do you feel like you tend to put your loved one's needs ahead of your own? Do you feel like you're responsible for your partner's happiness? And this is kind of covering what we did before, but you'll see in a second. Do you have low self-esteem? Do you fixate on your mistakes? Do you have a need for control, especially others? Do you need to be liked by everyone? Do you have a hard time saying no? Do you struggle to make your own decisions? Have you been described as needy? Do you have poor boundaries? Are you afraid of being left out? Do you rely on others to meet your needs? Are you attracted to a quote-unquote fixer-upper? Do you take on other people's responsibilities? Do you jump into a relationship right after one ends? Okay, so why did I pose everything I just did into a question? Because if you answered yes to more than 3 of these questions, then it may be time to start doing some of your core work. And that's okay. It's an opportunity for you to learn more about yourself and to lean in and grow into this process. And so we're going to talk about some of, like setting healthy behaviors and, just shifting focus to your self-care and like your empowerment and stuff like that. So we can do that by just doing like self-reflection and identify where some of your patterns originated from. Usually it's childhood experiences, but it can also be your past relationships. But really you want to sit in a little bit of uncomfortableness and think about where you think this may have started. So it comes with that self-awareness, right? So the easiest way to do this would be probably journaling. I've mentioned before, you can get some journaling prompts. I've also done a blog on it on my website. If you find that it's becoming overwhelming, take some time and step back away from it, because the idea is to grow, but not be so uncomfortable that you're causing anxiety. And then take a look at your boundaries. There's a good blog post on setting healthy boundaries with loved ones that will help you. But you want to determine what behaviors, requests, or actions that are acceptable to you. And make them clear. Don't be afraid to share what's acceptable to you and what's not. And embrace the word no. You can make it nicer. Just, I'm not able to do that right now, or something like that. And then, if you're somebody who is practicing boundaries with your partner, you can follow through with consequences when your boundaries are crossed. So if that means limiting time with somebody, then limit your time with somebody. You're the one that's in control. Don't forget that. And then make sure you're taking time with self-care. That means having a safe space for yourself. Do things that bring you, brings a smile to your heart, whether that's time in nature, relaxing hobbies. I'm not somebody who loves to work out, but I know there are people who are. More power to you. And also find ways on how to handle your own emotions without relying on somebody else, because you want to be able to do that from within. And make sure that you are taking time to celebrate you. Don't forget to celebrate small successes. And make sure, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to build pride and self-worth from within. So when you're recognizing your accomplishments, no matter how big or small they are, this will help you do those building bricks. So if you're someone who struggles with, I don't know, maybe you're struggling getting out of bed or getting off the couch. And so today you decided that you were going to get up off the couch and you were going to go sit in the sun for 15 minutes. And while that may not sound like a big deal to some people, to other people that is a big deal. So you celebrate that success. You mark it on your calendar. You do whatever it is, put it on your phone. Whatever it is that so you can see it and be like, you know what? I remember I did that and I am fucking amazing. So celebrate yourself. Take pride in yourself. Something else that you want to make sure that you're doing is learning how to communicate properly. Avoid that passive aggressiveness. They're just little daggers. And so we need to learn how to be respectful when we're expressing our needs, especially when we're communicating boundaries. And then this is something I struggled with personally, was being an active listener. One of my biggest mistakes was when my husband would be talking, I would be like half listening, and then I'd be like, oh, I know what I'm going to say next. Yeah, mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that would be better. Yeah. And so I would just kind of be formulating my next sentence in my head while he was still speaking. So you really want to pay attention to what someone is saying rather than what you're going to say next. So really give them your full attention. And then something else that we may not even think of is your own independence. I know that sounds weird because like you're an individual, right? But just think of things that you can do on your own. My husband and I felt like, well, okay, we're married, so we need to do every single thing, that we do together, which is good to an extent. But we also found that we need to have our own interests as well. So he loves like gaming, and stuff like that. Not video gaming, like a different gaming. And so he'll do that. And while he's doing that, I'll do this kind of stuff and writing and all that. And so if you can like reflect on your interests and, your goals and things that you can do independent of other people, learn new skills, find a hobby. Maybe you can audit a class, just, anything else that you can explore and that will help you build up your confidence and be comfortable inside your own head so that when you're spending time alone, you're okay inside your own brain. And it's okay if you need to get counseling. Counseling was a beautiful gift that I gave to myself. I recommend, if you're someone like me who struggled with any kind of abuse, I recommend getting a therapist who can work with you on like deep-rooted patterns and also who can explore things for healthier relationships. And, go to support groups, find, your healing hive, your sobriety circle, find some trusted allies that can be with you. Learn how to let go of that control. It's not easy, but you can do it. We've talked before about that, the jar, use your jar. And, work on healthy relationships and stuff. Find your people. But yeah. And then I've talked before about, the concept of us, and that just means, moving away from, because that's what I was going to say. We fell into like that parent-child relationship, which meant that we went from being enmeshed with each other to then me becoming like a mom figure. Like I said, like I was kind of Like, oh, you need to go to your appointment. Here, I'll do this for you and I'll take care of you. And I'll, since I've been in recovery for a while, I'll show you how to do this. And it was just like, okay, I need to stop. He's not one of my kids. And so we had to each develop a healthy sense of self. And so what we did was the concept of us just means having an independent self and then standing on our own 2 feet emotionally. We needed to be strong, healthy individuals so we could be a strong, healthy team. And that meant each of us, so we could stand side by side, right? But as healthy individuals. And what worked for us was having 3 recoveries in our relationship. Mine, his, and then ours. And then that allowed us to focus on ourselves, and it gave us each time to work on our recoveries, but it also gave me time to heal from my childhood stuff, him time to heal on his childhood stuff, and then us time to heal on the relationship, repair the relationship. So, and that concept may not be good for everyone, but it worked for us. And so whatever your journey looks like, you'll know what works best for you. But yeah, so anyway, I just wanted to share that little tidbit for you. Let me see, I'm not sure what day this is coming out. My last podcast will be the 17th, so I'm not sure if this is the last one or if there'll be one more. I might sneak one in on Christmas Eve. I'm not sure. It just depends on how much time I have. I have family coming in. And then I will not be back until mid-January because I have family coming and they are staying for a while, which is all good. I'm so excited. So if I don't come back, if this ends up being my last one, I hope everyone has a wonderful, wonderful holiday season. Stay safe out there. If you have any questions or you want some free downloadable worksheets or, read some more blog posts or need resources, please visit my website, bookendsofrecovery.com. This is Laura wishing you a beautiful day because you deserve it. Thank you so much for stopping by.